indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And would you please call the roll?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last 3 meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye and Mr. Ward. If you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. Motion carried. And I will turn it over to, well, I'd like to welcome everyone and wish you a very happy Valentine's Day. And thank you for joining us this evening. And I will turn it over for commendations and communications.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. We do have one section here under commendations and communications. This is a special commendation that was commandeered my way by the Public Health Department. I told them they certainly didn't have to do this, but Zach Green is a pretty strong fella, and he said, we're coming to the board to share with you an appreciation. So I said, welcome, Zach. And so at this time, Zach, I'll let you go ahead and go to the podium there, and you can share with the board what you'd like to share with.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Zach Green. I'm the Deputy Health Commissioner at Knox Public Health. I've been tasked to oversee our COVID operations, including one in which was our vaccine administration. Back around, I think it was Friday, January 8th, 2021, I reached out to Bill early morning, said, Bill, I need your help. We need a point of distribution site, a pod site large enough to outfit a COVID operations for the upcoming months, as we knew Moderna was on its way, along with Pfizer vaccine. The first wave of vaccine was built for our infrastructure, our critical infrastructure per our Department of Homeland Security, along with our elderly populations, individuals 80 and older. We knew that that was going to be a high demand. It was going to be critical for us to be efficient. Meeting with Bill around lunchtime that day, our initial point of distribution was at Mount Vernon High School. We knew obviously the school building was in full operations, but it was not sustainable to utilize that site. The erection of the new energy field house definitely seemed to be the prime site that we could utilize moving into the future. Met with Bill, met with Mr. Sanford, and within about 25 minutes, it was agreed upon that the site would be utilized as our primary site to serve not just Mount Vernon City, but in addition to the entire county of Knox. So with that being stated, after several hard months and long dedication and nothing but appreciation from Mr. Cedar, Mr. Sanford, Mr. Schaefer, and Mr. Shoemaker, I tell you what, those guys, anything we needed, they made sure it happened. And what a great asset, not only the field house is, but our partnerships and our rural community. It truly created a layer of perseverance as we all continue to navigate a very dark and challenging time throughout the most recent years. So on behalf of Knox Public Health, we would like to thank you, each of you. I know you guys executed the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, to ensure that this was solidified as we navigated those times. In addition to that, we provided you a small printout of a plaque that is now going to be, okay, and as everyone else can see, is now actually, I believe it was installed today. That was my understanding. Now, I don't get the entire truth. I'm sure that probably catches you off guard. In addition to that, an effort to offset some of the administrative costs, along with the utilities, et cetera, we have donated a check of $5,000 to offset some of those costs. And again, as a thank you, those were COVID relief dollars specifically earmarked for vaccine operations. So we wanted to pass that along to you guys. And thank you. I mean, what a great venue. And I know it's going to hold strong for many years to come. And our young athletes, extracurricular activities that is continuing giving back to, it is a great asset to our community. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. I'll tell you, we really value the relationship with Knox Public Health, and what a timely thing to have happen. If we had to come into a pandemic to have a facility like this, The number of times it was used was just, we were incredibly grateful to our community to have such a facility and then to share it. And then when I look up there and see that 12,352 doses were distributed there. Again, we greatly appreciate the relationship with Knox Public Health. The only thing I would say, Zach, is I hope we don't have to use that facility for another pandemic anytime in the near future. But if indeed we needed to do it, we know we can work together and do a great job. So thank you so much. Thank you. We have one report in public participation, East Elementary. I have asked our principals get so excited to share about their buildings. And sometimes when they say, well, how long should it be? Because they can talk forever. But I have asked them to kind of cut it down a little bit so we can watch some really wonderful things that are going on. And East Elementary has decided this is their month. And they're doing some really neat things relative to technology and STEAM and coding and some things like that, which are right on our front doorstep. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this 6-minute video highlighting East Elementary.
Welcome to East, where we're going to talk about our STEAM club that meets after school with our 4th and 5th grade students. STEAM and STEM are happening in all of our classrooms, K through 5 here at East Elementary. Our 4th and 5th grade students that get to stay for the STEAM club have lessons that are standards based and have a higher level of collaboration and problem solving.
We felt having a STEAM club at East Elementary was important because our students are already involved in many athletic and music opportunities throughout the week. But there aren't a lot of inquiry-based opportunities for students to use higher level thinking skills, inquiry, and to become better, well-rounded individuals. We offer it to 4th and 5th grade students due to the complexity of some of the materials and equipment that we have. Students need to have some intermediate math skills and definitely reading skills, problem-solving skills to be able to work through the different STEAM challenges that we offer.
Our planning for our 4th and 5th graders, we really look at our standards to see what will work for both of our grade levels.
And even though in our own classrooms we teach STEAM and STEM activities, it's nice to use the 4th and 5th grade inquiry standards and problem-solving standards so that cross grade levels can work together multi-age.
We love the fact that STEAM Club gives us the opportunity after school to work on projects that we might not be able to do in a regular classroom, a time frame setting. So it's nice that we can have an extended period of time after school.
I like having like a group of people so it just doesn't feel like just you trying to learn about this stuff.
The 4 C's of 21st century skills, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication aren't going anywhere. They are a critical component to student success in a rapidly changing workforce and society. These are easily woven into all of our STEAM lessons. This is where the active engagement really starts to shine with student groups, and they're creating original solutions and exploring questions from multiple perspectives.
It makes you challenge yourself, and it's okay when things don't work out the first time. We created a hand to show how our veins work. I was excited that mine could pick up the candy.
The first time I made a STEAM challenge work was the robotic hand. When you get older, they might give you a project and say, okay, so we want you to plug this into here and plug this into here, and then we want you to figure the rest out on your own. You can go ahead and do it. So I think that might help me because of STEAM. That might help me with a future project in high school and middle school.
It was my favorite because you got to make a circuit and you had to make the light bulb glow up.
We came across information for the Yellow Jacket grant through an email, and that made us think that we could purchase some of the equipment to start a STEAM club. With the first grant back in 2015, we purchased the Lego We Do set that students can put together Lego creations, code them, and get them moving, and using their engineering and creativity skills. And we also purchased Makey. Engineers from MIT put together that students can use their creativity to pretty much do anything from making musical instruments to game controllers and control their computers with. And then we also purchased a coding software that they could use on the internet to learn how to code. And we started STEAM Club in 2016 with our first group. The second year we applied for another grant so that we could purchase the Ozobots, which again use coding, Parrot drones, which are awesome. Students can code drones to move around the playground, and then also merge cubes that they can use to dive deeper into three-dimensional learning. The STEAM movement has been taking root over the past several years and is surging forward as a positive mode of action to truly meet the needs of the 21st century economy.
It helps me get a better understanding of things, to where if I have to do something when I'm older, I have a better understanding of it, and I could maybe do it better than I could have done it without a STEAM club.
Well, as you can see, there's some pretty neat things going on at East using coding and electronics, some engineering. You've got some, I'm trying to think of the name of it, Gary, is it the Vanderburg projects that they make all of those different types of engineering kind of activities. I'm trying to remember the name. Roof Goldberg, yeah. So some really exciting things going on there. Glad we could share that with you. Under monthly reports, so student government, John Bay Patel, I've got some of that information to share with the board. It's very brief. The forum show tryouts are complete, and the forum court, I guess, has been established. They are planning on having a live show this year, so that's exciting. We're also bringing back this spring a play. And so we're going to be having a play. The title of the play is Play On. It'll be performed on April 22nd, 23rd. So it's nice to be able to bring those things back. Winter sports is kind of coming to a close. Girls basketball will be in tournament action this next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday against Groveport. That'll be home. The boys basketball will open up tournament play on the 25th. And our wrestlers will be competing at the Ohio Cardinal Conference Championships at Ashland this weekend. So that was kind of the student government update from John B. And we'll go ahead and move on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. And is Mrs. Nesbitt here? I did not see her. Okay, Mr. Lang, would you like to say anything this evening? Okay, thank you for coming. And we have public participation, and we have two people signed up. And the first is Deborah Reedmiller. And if you would please state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Deborah Reed Miller. I live at 607 East High Street here in Mount Vernon. And I am a retired educator, 32 and a half years, 22 years in the classroom, 10 and a half years as an administrator at central office level in a large urban school district. I taught at both the middle school grades for 6 years, 12 in the high school, and 10 and a half in administration. I've taught in suburban schools, rural schools, and urban. And in a third of my education career, I was the minority. I worked in a district which was where there were many Blacks, many Hispanics, and I have lots of experience working with minority groups. Very exhilarating period in my life. I'm here because I became aware of the banning of a particular book, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. I was surprised. I immediately went out and purchased the book. I'm an avid reader. I have 5 grandsons and a son. And I collect books, and I've always been searching for books that would be good for my boys. And so that would be from picture books when they were little to lower grades, middle grades, and young adults. So I immediately bought the book and read it. I was waited the entire book for those steamy, explicit sex scenes. I found a few words, but I thought, whoa, wonder if people who have been reading this book, if they have boys or if they have memory loss. But anyway, I thought surely there was going to be something steamy when the young man hooked up with a little girl named Penelope. Still wasn't there. Anyway, I think it's an important book. I think if you read the book, you'll find that they talk in terms of the reservation. And I think that we have some children here in Mount Vernon, that if they read that book, it might help them find the courage, the bravery to leave their res and move on to bigger things and a brighter future for themselves. So if in the future there are books that are on the docket to be considered for banning, I'd like to know, what is your process for that going to be? Is every single board member going to read the entire book, or just simply listen and hear about some excerpts that a few people found unseemly? So I'd like to know how many people are going to be reading it, who's on that group, and what are those titles, and spend some time, because I'm still very, very surprised that that book was removed. Thanks.
We also have Linda Michaels.
My name is Linda Michaels, and I live in Gambier, on New Gambier Road. I'm here today mainly because I want to speak in support of our teachers. They have been nothing short of heroic for the past 2 years. They have had to deal with a whole lot of uncertainty daily, weekly. And it seems like every year we expect more and more and more of the teachers, that is over and above their basic responsibility of teaching their subject matter or their grade level. You know, we expect them to be emotionally in tune with their 25 or 30 students, to always, you know, be sensitive to every little nuance of these 25 or 30 students. And now we are also, you know, they're also having to contend with the feelings of each of the parents of all of these 25 or 30 students. I assume each student has probably at least one parent. So I just want our teachers to know that there are those of us out there who really appreciate the effort that they're making. And I hope they don't all quit on us because I know across the country, this is a huge, I mean, they're just resigning in droves. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And that ends our public participation and board items for discussion. There were none, so we will move on to additions and deletions.
I have a number of items that were added to the agenda since Friday when we sent them out. They're kind of in the smaller sections. The Knox Public Health donation. We added that to tonight's board agenda. We also have the addition of a substitute teacher and the announcement and the approval of a new head football coach. And I'll share a little bit of that more when I get into the district update, but those additions to the agenda for tonight.
Thank you.
Under superintendent's report, I do have a district update, and I will pull that document up. So today is Valentine's Day. Thank you, all of you, for coming on Valentine's Day. And I had a chance to make it around to a few buildings today, and you know how kids are, especially our elementary students. They had a couple of jokes they wanted to share on Valentine's Day, and I thought it just fitting to make my first slide a joke. So I guess this is to the board. So what did Frankenstein's monster say to his bride on Valentine's Day? Board members, any takers? Be my Valentine. Okay, drummer. All right. So another little fellow comes up and says, what flowers get the most kisses on Valentine's Day? I think I heard it from the crowd over there. Tulips. And finally, what kind of candy is never on time? Anybody from the audience? Chocolate. Kind of cheesy, but a good way to maybe start off Valentine's Day. I do have a number of congratulations to share in the district update. Emma Reinhardt is a Mount Vernon High School girls wrestler. She was crowned district champion. She pinned all of her opponents en route to 115-pound weight class championship. Emma's a returning district champion and will make her second trip to the Girls State Wrestling Championships. So congratulations to Emma. And previously, as I had mentioned, Jay Campbell has accepted the offer to be the next head football coach at Mount Vernon, pending approval tonight. Coach Campbell's coming to Mount Vernon High School from Northridge, where he served as a head coach for since 2017. He led the Vikings to their first playoff appearance in 16 years. And I'm thankful to a number of board members who were part of that process. And I think they will attest that Jay brings quality of character as well as football acumen to the position. He's going to be introduced, again, pending board approval tonight, at a basketball game on Wednesday. And I think he's going to meet with some players and perhaps even parents tomorrow. So a couple of special congratulations there. Also wanted to just touch base on Calamity Days. As you know, we had an interesting set of snow days a couple of weeks ago. It kind of took us to our limit. So I wanted to just quickly brief what that looks like. You know, in the past, the Ohio Revised Code provided 5 calamity days, and any days missed beyond 5 had to be made up at spring break or the end of the year. Then as time passed, districts were provided an alternative in the form of blizzard bags. So any days you missed beyond 5, you could apply for and get 3 additional days of blizzard bags. And that was kind of implemented really before technology. And then Ohio districts and schools, they changed over, and we now operate under an hour-based schedule versus a day-based schedule. The result of that was there was no longer need for calamity days. Schools could use the excess hours above the state minimum to accommodate for weather-related cancellations or delays. What does that mean for Mount Vernon? It means that our calendar right now reflects 1,078 hours at the secondary level and 1,038 hours at the elementary level. Now, we're actually there longer than that, but you can't count lunch. And so some of those hours have already been subtracted out. But when you look at the state minimum of hours at the secondary level, it's 1,001. And at the elementary level, it's 910. Now, those are the minimum that the state allows. So the middle school and high school in this year's calendar could miss up to 77 hours of instruction time, or the equivalent of 12 and a half days, without having to make any days up. The elementary could miss up to 128 hours, or the equivalent of 21 days. So as a district, we decided that we would continue to excuse up to the 5 days. And you know how much fun anticipating those snow days are. But we didn't really feel we should go beyond the 5. We felt like once we reached 5, there's really value to the instructional day. We didn't have to apply for blizzard bags anymore, but because the district has really been one-to-one technology for the past probably 5 years at the secondary level, and we've begun to push a lot of technology down to the primary or elementary level, that any days missed beyond 5, we would go into what we call remote or online learning. And it really aligns better to our collective bargaining agreement. It aligns better to our instructional opportunities for students. You may hear of other districts that are going to go ahead and just continue to miss to day 6, 7, and 8 without making them up. And that is certainly their prerogative. We've just decided that because we have that ability to do that, we're going to give 5 days, and then we'll start the next Calamity Day, by the way, we'll start online and remote learning. Our students will always have the ability to make that work up. It doesn't have to be done that day, because we do realize we have some challenges for internet services in some instances, and so on. So we will allow adequate time to make up that work. The one thing that the pandemic has taught us is that we can make this work. We weren't quite ready for it when it started 2 years ago. We had the technology, but we didn't really invest in the training to do that. We've gotten a lot better over the past year and a half. And so that kind of gives you a summation of our Calamity Days. So any more days that we miss, our kids will be working at home online. Just to give you a quick COVID update, this was as of today, updated on February 14th. We currently, as of today, only have 2 active student cases of COVID-19 in the district. That is by far the lowest we've had in a long time. When they made the change to go from 10 days of quarantine to 5, it certainly helped. And we're now to a point, and Zach left, but Ohio has now entered a new phase of this where we are no longer contact tracing students in the school setting. And so basically, if a student was positive in Mr. Smith's class, we don't have to go in and look and find that student in every class they were in and find who they were sitting around. So that has certainly helped. We now are really updating and reporting positive cases only 1 time a week on Fridays. And let's hope those numbers stay in that realm. But special thanks to all those who worked pretty hard to try to get this thing turned. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're looking better and better all the time. I did want to share just a quick bit of information about this. Positive behavioral interventions and supports. Unfortunately, it gets a bad name sometimes, and maybe we need to do a better job of just being a bit more informative. We've been living this since 2018. So sometimes we think, oh, we hear about it from our teachers, we hear about it from our staffs, and yet when you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, you kind of lose sight of how much maybe you need to communicate what's going on here. The Ohio State Legislature, in conjunction with the Ohio Department of Education, passed House Bill 318, and then Governor Kasich at the time signed that into law on August of 2018. And basically that said that all school districts had to provide a PBIS program. It's unfortunate that behaviors have continued to kind of escalate and increase. If you've not been inside the school setting in a number of years, the behaviors have gotten a bit more challenging, especially at our younger levels. And there are all kinds of reasons for that. Certainly, could be family structures, it could be drugs, it could be a variety of different things. But clearly, the behaviors that our staff and our students are seeing, it's gotten to be more challenging, to the point to where the legislature needed and felt the need to pass this into law. What is PBIS? It's simply a framework. We don't work on this every day. We spend very little time once it's set up, other than just creating the expectations and moving forward. But you know, we've seen some videos lately, and you see things like brain breaks, and you see kids bouncing balls, and it gives a bit of a false impression that that's all they do all day. Believe me, they do a lot of things every single day. 98% of it is academically focused, but we do some of these kind of interventions and supports. The essential components were clear expectations. Every school has to sit down at the beginning of the year and identify 3 to 5 school-wide overarching behavioral expectations based upon what they've seen in their school. If kids are being disrespectful, then that becomes a goal, an expectation that they create. We need to have some instruction placed behind that, and then we need to consistently have a system that acknowledges correct behavior. And when you really look at the guidance, they want to see 5 positive behaviors to every 1 negative behavior. And so it really has been a good system for us, and unfortunately, it maybe hasn't been portrayed quite right. I'm going to give you an example of Twin Oak. This is theirs this year. And what our buildings tend to do is they develop acronyms, and in Twin Oak's case, they developed 4 behavior expectations that they felt were really important for this building. They wanted their students to be helpful, engaged, responsible, and orderly. And then what they do is they simply apply those to each one of the sections that are up there. So if you're in the classroom or in a specials class and you're going to be helpful, you're going to be caring for yourself and others. If you're going to be responsible, you're going to care for classroom property and do your work without reminders. And then you can kind of see how that all follows down to the playground, to the hallway, to the restroom, to the cafeteria. Use good manners, eat your lunch, clean up after yourself. These are just behavioral expectations that some of us would, quite frankly, take for granted, but that we want to create a special emphasis for. And it's been really valuable for us. Here's Dan Emmett Elementary's. They took the acronym SWARM because of the jackets, SWARM, safe, wise, accepting, responsible, and mindful. So in the classroom, Dan Emmett Elementary students are reminded to be accepting of differences, encourage others, show empathy towards others. These are good traits to be able to display and to learn. And so I wanted to just kind of share a little bit about that PBIS. Number one, we're mandated to do it. And this is really all it is about, is creating good behavior expectations. I added another slide here, master planning, facilities, and programs. If you haven't heard by now, Intel's coming to Ohio. And it's actually been dubbed now, everybody's heard of Silicon Valley. Ohio, and this part of Ohio, central Ohio, has been dubbed the Silicon Heartland. And with Intel's announcement of a $20 billion investment to 2 factories in Johnstown, which, by the way, is 22 miles away from here, there's going to be a lot going on. The announcement is expected to create over 20,000 jobs, which includes 3,000 direct Intel jobs, paying an average of $135,000 a year. Intel suppliers will also be looking to relocate closer to Intel to better support the daily supply chain. I put all of that down just to share with you that I believe, and others believe, that Mount Vernon is kind of in this prime location, 22 miles away, to attract, industry, to attract supply chain providers, to provide jobs. And it's really going to be incumbent upon us, I believe, to position the school district in such a way that makes Mount Vernon a very attractive place to be. And that comes in the way that we instruct our kids, that comes in our programming. We're looking to really kind of beef up some engineering and computer science programs so that our students will find that level of interest, realizing that there are jobs just 22 miles down the road that they might be able to get excited about. And quite frankly, when you look at some of those salaries, that's nothing to shake a stick at. But there'll also be, I heard there's going to be over 7,000 jobs just in the construction phase of all these facilities. And we need people to fill those jobs, and they're high-paying, good jobs. We also have to take a look, and we've been looking as a district for quite some time at our master facilities, our buildings, from our elementary to our middle to our high school. We have a beautiful field house. Again, the first thing employers ask when they start looking around for a place to relocate is, what's the housing situation and what are the schools like? And so we always want to put our best foot forward, whether anybody's coming or not, but we certainly need to be able to take a better look at that. And I know Gary and I are in contact right now with our architects just to help lead us in a master facility kind of a project that might help us better identify the most essential ways that we can improve our facilities, streamline them from a cost-effective standpoint, and then try to provide our students with an opportunity for the jobs of the future. So wanted to share a little bit of that. Finally, the Ohio School Boards Association has a Central Regional Spring Conference coming up here. And we have 2 board members who are winning awards. And so, I think that's worthy of a district update. So Dr. Bennett is receiving the Star Award at this conference, and Jody Getson is receiving a Service Award. So congratulations to both of you. That'll take place March 9th. That's really after our next board meeting. So I wanted to make sure I got a chance to recognize you there. And I didn't have a slide for this, but I will say it real quick. Congratulations to board member Tim Workman. He became a grandpa again last week. And so if there's a little halo of pride around his head, that's probably it. So that's our district update for today. The other superintendent's items for information is there is a chamber dinner that's been rescheduled. Board, please take a look at that. And then we have a number of board policies. This is the first reading for these policies. We have 2 readings, so feel free to open those up. You can see the side-by-side comparisons, and we have, we'll read those again in March and approve those in March pending any changes that you might want to bring to us. Finally, in this section, we have 1 board item for recommendation for approval, and that's to authorize the membership into the Ohio High School Athletic Association for Mount Vernon High School and Mount Vernon Middle School.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve that resolution.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ruladai
I'll second that.
and Mrs. Getzman. And were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Student achievement for this month. There were so many really interesting articles. I picked the one that had a human interest theme, and that was about a teen with autism who celebrates his 250th podcast. And this is Jackson Roble, and he began podcasting 1.5 years ago. And he was encouraged to do so by the Autism Services Coordinator for the Autism Society of North Carolina. And the project was really to help Jackson improve his communication and social skills, as well as to increase his sense of belonging and independence. And he loved sports, so he interviewed, beginning with featured sports figures, and then he expanded to business owners, actors, pastors, politicians, and fellow podcasters. And then his friends began even recommending people for him to interview. And his interview expanded again to educators, authors, and musicians. And he connects with people and he makes them laugh and smile. And he's conveyed the message about capabilities of people with autism, and through the interviews with guests who are on the autism spectrum. And one of the students who knows Jackson said is when you talk with him, you realize right away how smart he is. And that was also a good thing to portray. And in June of 2021, Jackson was invited to broadcast live from the North Carolina General Assembly when the House Majority Leaders hosted him and his family, and also the Raleigh Film and Art Festival he podcasted, and the State Fair. So one of the final comments in the article was, I think he's teaching people that if you stop to take a moment and have a real conversation with others, regardless of ability or disability, you can truly learn something and build a relationship and have a sense of community. And I thought that was a good final comment. But this goes to show if we give our kids opportunities, they'll take advantage and really run with them, and it has a great impact on other people as well. So any questions? Okay, and we will go ahead to the next item.
We have one item for board approval tonight in this section. It's a College Credit Plus partnership agreement with Kenyon College. Again, the agreement is for collection of courses offered by the college to the district through the Ohio College Credit Plus framework.
I would entertain a motion to approve that item as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And do I have any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman. Yes. Mr. Ward. Yes. Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Fiscal services.
Bill, if you don't mind opening the initial link there. Just go to page 3, unless the board would like to see something else. Did want to point out, as we know, there was a new biennial budget passed, but we've been kind of waiting for it to kick in. It finally kicked in the month of January, and we received essentially a true up for the money that has been kind of on hold. So you will notice that our state foundation payment for that month was over $1 million more than the previous month. Again, even since the budget went into place, they have so many mechanisms that still, quite honestly, aren't done. But so they were working on those behind the scenes, and they were paying us exactly the same every payment, month after month after month. Now, thankfully, some of that has come to fruition, and we saw quite an increase. It will not be that way every month, but unfortunately, but it was a significant amount that I thought I would point out to the board. If you also go down a section, you will see a negative amount listed in there. We were able to move a lot of the supplies that we've been purchasing, and they qualified for ESSER. So we were able to move those expenses out of the general fund and use those ESSER funds. And that allows us, of course, to keep the general fund a little healthier. So we're always looking for opportunities and ways to do that. If there's no questions regarding anything, the rest of it is very boilerplate. Not much going on in our investment report, unfortunately. There is an amendment. As you know, Mr. Dill, Dr. Dill was able to get 2 grants of some pretty significant amounts of money. Those are federal grants, the 599 fund. So obviously I need board approval to appropriate those and then spend those. We appropriated one previously. We've now got the second one we're appropriating. And in addition, we have some title money that's also being put into there. So that's why you get the amount for the January appropriation. So also, I obviously have some things to read, but there is a resolution to accept the tax rates. This is something the board does every year. It comes directly from our county auditor. I will fill in that stuff later regarding who makes a motion and so on and so forth. We've certainly checked it. We don't see any reason to doubt the veracity of their numbers. So we don't have much choice anyway, so.
Right.
You want to make the motion, or do you want me to just go ahead and read?
The motion is for everything, right? Or-
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead and read the memorial books?
Okay, we do have several donations. We have a donation from Eastern Star Home of 35 bags with snacks and gloves, coloring books, crowns that were decorated by the residents. That was made to Dan Emmett Elementary. The previously mentioned very generous donation from Knox Public Health of $5,000 to the district for use of the field house. Grateful for that and grateful for the partnership with them. Then we have some memorial books. We have a book in memory of Jeff Dennis, who was the brother of Cindy Fannin. Is a 5th grade teacher at East Elementary, and is a wood shop book, as you can read the title there, and it was donated to East Elementary. And we have a book in memory of Terry Foltz, who was the wife of Ron Foltz, the high school assistant principal, and it is the Screw Tape Letters, and it is donated or was donated to the high school library.
Okay, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve all of those 5 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any questions? Again, it's a nice surprise that the Public Health Department awarded us the money, and it was such a wonderful event for the community too, so convenient. So great partnership. If you call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And legislative liaison.
Thank you. HB 51 and SB 181 were sent to the governor for his approval. 51 revises the process for adjusting property values and allows a public body such as a Board of Education to meet remotely until June of 2022. 181 establishes restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing in interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. The Senate passed SB 112, which would establish the Ohio Mobile Training Program, which includes basic firearm training for school safety designees. SB 112 would require abandoned land to be forfeited to the state rather than a school district. And this also included a revision in the Ed Choice Cleveland Scholarship Program, which may be placed in a different bill. And it's in regard to the size of a municipality. SB 251 would allow a person under the age of 16 to be employed between 7 and 9 p.m. during the school year with parental permission. HB 281 would change terminology in the Ohio Revised Code as it pertains to individuals with mental illness and disabilities. I did contact the senator who introduced SB 251 regarding age of minors and working, and told him that I didn't think this was a good idea, and to please reconsider taking that off of the table completely. Any questions or comments? Anything I can tell our people? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And business services.
I have a number of items for board approval tonight in this section. The first is a resolution for boiler replacement at the high school. We had a bid opening several weeks ago, and we have a winter bid by Standard Pumping and Heating for $269,000. It was originally kind of estimated it would be in that 285 range, so the bidding process worked for us there. We also have a real estate contract addendum. We're extending the financing component of the bus garage for a few more, for some additional time, just due to kind of the complexities in this day and age of getting that financing in place. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, and there's also a backup of appraisers due to COVID. So for those two reasons, I'm recommending that the board give this brief extension to the buyer.
And finally, in this section is a facility reuse request for the Mount Vernon sixth grade girls basketball team. Those 3 items for your approval tonight.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for those 3 items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And no student services? Okay, we'll move ahead then to personnel.
Under personnel, certificated licensed staff, no items for information tonight, number of items for board approval. The employment section, we have resignations there. We also have a new teacher who was just brought in due to a resignation. And that is Erica Pullins for speech and language pathology, some substitute teacher, a variety of supplementals. And you'll notice there, those are homework study tables. I know at the high school, they're trying to ramp up some after-school homework study kinds of opportunities for students. And so that's why a number of those are listed there. And then some extracurricular supplemental contracts as well. And then the final item, and it's actually for next year, it's listed as 2022, 2023, is the employment of Jay Campbell to be our head football coach. Those items for your approval.
Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve those certificated licensed staff.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Regola Dye. Were there any questions? Excuse me. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Classified.
Classified staff, no items for information tonight, number of items for board approval, the approval of a number of 2-year contracts. We also have some substitute employment. We have one retirement announcement, Helen Rosser, who is at the middle school, been with the district for a long time. So hopefully we get a chance to honor her for her service, probably sometime here in May, even though she'll be retiring here at the end of this month. So we'll need to replace her position and one other resignation as a bus mechanic. Those items for your approval tonight.
Thank you. The classified staff items, I need a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Board member comments and Mrs. Getzmann, would you like to begin?
I really don't have, I just appreciate Mike and his group and Rick Schaefer and that little snowstorm and all the bus drivers making sure our kids got to school and the diligence in which they worked. I sent a message to Mr. Schaefer and said I was out and about, and I was curious as to how they would get all of the schools ready. And they did a fantastic job. I know some of the parents were a little concerned with some of the pileups of snow that block some driveways and some sidewalks, but I know those have been addressed. And so we appreciate patience and getting all of that done. So hats off to all of them to make sure we were in school safely. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Regola Dye.
Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. I'd like to give a shout out and congratulations to our Mount Vernon Yellow Jacket cheerleading team. They placed first at the 2022 cheer and dance competition that was held at Ashland University. And they're going to be moving on to the state competition later this month. So good luck, ladies. Also, I'd like to point out something important. People sometimes doubt the excellence of our public schools. And I'd like to congratulate one of our high school graduates, Mark Fongheiser. Mark finished his studies at The Ohio State University in neuroscience. He will next begin his research career at Columbia University. He will be researching cell death in degenerative disease. Please remember that our great public schools are succeeding. We are graduating capable, highly qualified students who will contribute to our communities. Education leads to knowledge, and knowledge leads to a more equitable and peaceful society. We are certainly in a partnership with our community, and we thank so many of you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming out this evening. And, this past month, and I'm still the newbie here, I was able to go visit a robotics competition, a regional competition about 4 weeks ago down at the field house. Also went to a basketball game this past weekend, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But, it's interesting when you go to the field house and you get to talk with the parents, both within this community, and because it was a regional event, it was also a lot of parents from around the state. And they were pretty much blown away that Mount Vernon had a field house like this. And you could hear people talking about, well, maybe they should be moving the state competition. That's for another day. But it's just interesting about what kind of perception that gives to our community from those outside. Great positive energy about that. The other thing, again, about the basketball game Friday night that I went to, and I went to the freshman, the JV, and the varsity game. It was a long evening. There was a lot there that I was witnessing that I was proud of. We're really kind of surrounded by a lot of negatives in the world, whether it's the politics or the pandemics or whatever you want to do. But if you need a break from that, and you want to take a look at the kids that we're all here for, go to a ball game. And I'm not even talking about the basketball players. You should see the kids that have parked themselves underneath the one end of the hoop. They've got a talent going there that is something to witness. And you haven't lived until you've seen a drum line at halftime. That was something else for those that have seen it.
They're great.
I guess what I want to encourage you to do is to, again, in the midst of all the negatives going on in the world, is to be able to take a step back and go see what our kids are doing. They're not just having fun, but there's a lot of talent that's embedded in this, whether it's basketball players, the cheer squad that you referred to, the pep band, the drum line, the kids and how they coordinate their pregame stuff. There's a lot there that I think our community has to be proud of. So I just wanted to share that, and I would encourage everybody to meet me there this coming Friday. I think it's their season home finale. I'll be there. Hopefully I'll see a lot of you there too.
Thank you very much. And would you go ahead, Grandpa?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is actually the second consecutive board meeting that I got to share a new grandchild. So I said after this one, I'm pretty much done for a while. But no, that's been exciting for us. 3 grandchildren in a little over 2 years. So it's been exciting. But I'd also like to thank everybody for coming out. Echo what Jody said, thanks to Mike and his group, with the snow. If that wasn't bad enough, let's throw on some ice in the middle and then some snow on top. So I know how it was on my driveway. I can't imagine getting all the schools done. So appreciate all your team has done there. The last couple of weeks, I've had a chance to be in the field house a couple of times. And again, we've kind of mentioned a little bit, but the excitement that is back, especially in that building, is amazing. One night I was there, our partnership with MVNU, they had a lacrosse game there. And boy, those guys were psyched up. We were in the meeting room beside it, and the locker room was there, and they were blasting music and, busting out of the locker room. So it was great to witness that partnership. But, walking through the halls and seeing, the wrestling room and all the kids in there involved. And then, in the gym, lacrosse, basketball, practices going on. So it's great to see all that facility. Every time we run into somebody new that sees that is just amazed by what that is. And so, again, it's a great asset to our community and our school. So again, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight.
And I would like to thank you as well for coming this evening. I think everything's been said that I could possibly say. I don't know that we've given credit to our superintendent and our treasurer, who work very hard behind the scenes and are just real leaders in our district, and we really appreciate their leadership. I'd also like to thank those who presented tonight, who asked to participate in public participation for the gracious way you presented and very respectfully. So thank you for sharing with us in that regard. And I thank all of you for coming on this night and hope that you have a safe trip home. And we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, we are adjourned. Thank you again for coming.